Hey all. So while everybody's joining the live event, I'm just going to give a bit of an overview of the passage that I'm going to read. So I'm going to be reading from the uh, Kindle edition on the iPad. Whoops. Okay, so a couple of things just for context. The excerpt that I'm reading is in chapter 4 of the story. And once I've done the reading, then I'll go to a bit of an explanation of the themes that I've used in that segment. And then if there's any questions, you can fire away on the comments. So firstly, I want to just say thank you to Guardbridge for publishing Soul Searching. It has been a long time coming. The initial idea came to me in 2006, and it was on the 23rd of August 2006 that I put keyboard to screen. So it has been quite a journey, and for Guardbridge to pick it up and want to publish it and publish it with the enthusiasm that they have has been really cool. So the section that I'm going to be reading, there's two themes that are in that section and throughout the soul searching story, and those are beliefs and parents. So and then also there's a bit of a backstory that I'll share with you after I've gone over those. So with soul searching, obviously the greater theme, which pretty much resonates where we are right now, is the overreach of government. So soul searching is about a government department within the South African Police Service that have got the technology to be able to track citizens. And I thought at the time when I came up with the idea was what would be the extreme tracking system. So we've got facial recognition, we've got our mobile devices that can be tracked. So the soul to me is like the ultimate invasive type of tracking. So the section that I'm going to read for context, one of the trackers, Franklin Banks, he has asked Mike Haddon how he knows what he knows, the types of things that he knows. He's one of the older people in the crew. He is the head tracker, and he's the one that looks at the giant screen that's in the screen room and interprets the symbols, interprets the astrology, the Vedic astrology as well that's incorporated in it, and he also intuits. So it's not just a case of being able to read what's in front of you. So something's happened, and Franklin basically wants to know, well, how do you know this? So he's going to be sharing something that has happened to him, in his childhood, and it gives a bit of insight to him. And then, as I said, it's got those two themes that carry throughout the story of beliefs and parents. I was 12, just about to break the spell of my youth and dive head-on into teenager life. So that would have been 1985. My friend and I have just walked the 5 kilometers to his house after school, joking around, pushing each other into the bushes. Kids. As we're coming closer to his place, we notice smoke in the air above his property. We give each other a look and pick up our pace. He's got high walls surrounding his property, but because of the incline of the road, we can just make out his brother and mother busying themselves around the source of the smoke. He starts shouting to them as he's opening the tall iron gate on the driveway. His mother turns to him and says something, but I'm standing stock still at that gate. I know something isn't right, but not in the emergency sense. He's getting pushed aside by his brother, older and bigger than him. His mother waves me away, saying something about New Age occultist. I got the hell out of there. It's all a bit of a blur to me, but he told me the details later on when he knocked on my front door a few hours after. I opened the door to a pale, hunched person, my best friend. Some people say that everyone is given an experience that robs them of their innocence. His was ripped from his gut, through his heart, and out of his throat. His experience was my awakening. I wouldn't say that I lost my innocence that day, but the world became bigger than it had ever been. When I assumed I had it all covered, all figured out, it became this massive ball of energy and unexplained mysteries that what we were taught in school didn't even come close to preparing you for. For him, in his words, he'd seen what those he trusted were capable of doing. But to me, I saw the nature of fear, how people react when they are scared, when they think they are protecting their family. That was the vastness I saw. Nothing was simple anymore. Everyone we meet had many things that created who they were in a given moment. We both sat on the edge of my bed as he told me what had happened that day. His mother had been at a church prayer meeting that afternoon. You know, tea, gossip, and fear-induced enthusiasm. The topic of music and magic being the path of the devil was tabled. In those days, we had LPs, and one of the favorite techniques was to backtrack a song to find hidden messages aimed at the innocent minds of youth. Damned warped even to have thought of that in the first place. Of all the damn albums they had to choose that day, they chose Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms. His gran had bought it for him a few weeks before, and it was fresh in his mother's mind. A song about getting your money for nothing and women for free was totally unacceptable. And then they laid into Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. Backtracked one or two of the songs. I don't care if you take Beethoven's Ninth or Freezeburg's Heartache Headache. Anything backtracked sounds perverted. Now, I happen to have that Springsteen album at home, and damned if I could hear any messages from the Lord of Darkness. To top it all off, his mother had allowed him to buy a Learn to be a Top Magician kit around his birthday a few months before. He'd been showing me his sleight of hand card tricks even I thought were magic. His mother had been waving the Dire Straits cover at me, shouting, "Your parents should be ashamed, bringing up an occultist New Age Satanist," and threw it into the fire. His brother had, moments before, scattered his magician box contents into the flames. The black smoke from the red plastic ball and plastic wand had choked him as he tried to reach in to save his trick deck of cards. A few weeks later, we found some of the charred cards that had floated up in the heat and smoke a few kilometers from his house in the open grass, where he had often gone riding on our BMXs. Anything that drives a kid to start smoking at 13 should be deemed a bad influence. And if anyone was looking for the devil in the shadows that day, he was well and truly out in the open and dancing around the fire of a child's hopes and dreams and innocence. And if ever the devil has a face, it's a parent turning on their child, killing them to save them. Destroyer of trust. Sleight of hand takes something without noticing. This was blatant. It wasn't a father or a mother that day. It wasn't a brother. It wasn't the devil in the flames. It wasn't a family tragedy or the death of someone close. It was my friend sitting on the edge of my bed, crying into his blackened hands, his belief in rock stars and magic. The worst thing a parent ever did was telling their child that the devil existed. Okay. So, as you can see, the themes being beliefs and parents are quite prevalent in that. And then the backstory is that actually happened to me. And yeah, pretty much how it happened, except it wasn't a friend of mine. It was me out in the front garden, and it was in the mid-'80s. And if some of you know, in the mid-80s, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in South Africa there was the whole satanic panic, and that's how that played out. So from a beliefs point of view, as a theme, whether we are brought up in a certain way, with a family in a certain religion, or society as a whole, and then as we grow older, those beliefs are either solidified or they are broken down or dropped altogether. So from a beliefs point of view, in the soul-searching story, there's other belief systems, there's traditional beliefs that are brought in. So with the tracking system and the screen, as I've mentioned, there's astrology, the traditional astrology, as well as the Vedic astrology that's been integrated into that. It covers things like, whether souls go to heaven or not, and reincarnation. And then one of the moments later on in the story, I bring in Izangoma traditions, and that has a key kind of Easter egg for anybody that's paying attention to the word usage in that scene later. And so with those beliefs obviously being brought up with parents, the second theme is parents. And that scene that Mark Haddon describes has got a bit of a foreshadowing for the second half of the story. And with the parenting, or parents, some choose not to be a parent, but we've all got parents, whether they're present in our lives or whether they are absent. But parents have some kind of impact in our lives. And from that scene, it's quite obvious that the mother is doing what she believes is best for her child, to save the child. In the case of my mother and my parents, I was brought up in a Catholic family, and then my parents got divorced and we joined a born-again Christian church. And for my mother, she had two boys that were about to go into their teenage years, so she was doing what she felt necessary to protect them. And then from that scene, you can see that there were two perspectives. The one was from his friend's perspective, who took that incident obviously quite badly, and I imply that he started smoking at 13. But for Mark, it really was an awakening. It broadened his view of the world. He had this, as most kids do, this kind of narrow view of the world, idealistic view of the world, and this kind of just exposed him to different mindsets and, again, different beliefs. So those were the themes that I thought that scene really summed up. And yeah, if anybody's got any questions, just shout. But the rest of the book has a lot more of that type of thing that I like to infuse into a story. It isn't just about science fiction. Doesn't matter what world you've created, where you are in time. In this case, in 2038 in Durban. I want to have characters that are engaging, that I can engage with as a reader. So, and that's another reason why I wanted to read this. It wasn't like a science fiction scene. It was a really emotional, human experience. So, yeah, if you've enjoyed that, I hope you get a copy of the book if you haven't already. Guardbridge are going to be doing the paperback in September, so look out for that. Look at the Guardbridge site for other authors and other works that are really, really cool. Follow me on Facebook and follow Guardbridge. Yeah, that's all I've got to read right now. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you comment, I can always chime in later offline. And maybe there'll be some more readings. So thank you for joining me.